What if the forest around you is alive in a way we've never truly understood? Not just growing, but speaking. Right now, as you walk beneath the trees, something beneath your feet is listening and responding. We've long thought of trees as silent, passive, but new science says we were wrong, very wrong. This isn't folklore. There are forests where trees warn each other of danger, where nutrients are shared, not competed for, where decisions are made without a brain. It sounds like fantasy, but the truth is emerging from deep underground. Before we explore the science, let's rewind to the myth. In countless indigenous cultures, forests were never just trees. They were ancestors, spirits, teachers. Something we, in modern life, forgot. Maybe they were right, and maybe the trees have been talking all along. We just didn't know how to listen. Because in today's episode, you're about to hear the forest speak. Beneath every step you take in a forest, there's a secret. A vast, living internet, not built by humans, but by fungus. It's called the Wood Wide Web. A real biological network that links trees together underground. Through thin fungal threads called mycorrhizae. These microscopic filaments attach to tree roots and then connect to other trees and other plants, forming a massive web of communication. But this isn't just a passive link. Trees use this network to share nutrients, to send warnings, to help each other. When one tree is attacked by pests, it releases chemical signals through its roots. Nearby trees, they get the message and start producing defenses before the attacker even arrives. Mother trees, yes, scientists actually call them that, feed smaller saplings by channeling carbon and water through these fungal bridges, even across species. Think about that. One tree helping another survive, even if they're not the same kind, not for profit, not for power. Just because the forest stays stronger together, this fungal web can stretch for kilometers. It grows, adapts, and rewires itself constantly. It remembers, it learns, and we only discovered it a few decades ago. The question isn't just how this works, but why we never noticed. Next, what happens when trees send a distress signal above ground, and how some acacias learn to whisper warnings through the air. In the savannas of Africa, giraffes graze on acacia trees. Seems ordinary, until you watch what happens next. After just a few bites, the giraffes suddenly walk away, not to rest, not to hide, but to another tree. Farther away. Why? Because the acacia tree they were feeding on started fighting back. Within minutes of being bitten, the tree released a burst of gas, a chemical signal called ethylene, to the air. Nearby acacia trees picked it up, and immediately they increased toxins in their leaves, making themselves taste bitter or even toxic. The giraffes knew this, so they walked upwind. Two trees that hadn't yet received the warning. This isn't a metaphor. This is real-time, airborne plant communication. Trees don't just whisper underground. They shout into the wind. In dense forests, when insects attack one tree, it can trigger a cascade of chemical alerts. A forest-wide SOS, a defensive ripple effect. Some plants even release scents that attract predators of the insect attacking them, like a chemical 911 call. Come eat what's eating me. And these responses aren't random. They're specific, measured, targeted. But that's not all. Roots, too, send electrical impulses, tiny voltage changes that move slower than in animals, but still carry information. So, if plants can sense, communicate, and respond, what does that make them? Passive organisms, or something else? Coming up, the scientists who dared to ask that question and discovered an intelligence we never expected. What if the forest was talking, but no one wanted to listen? That's what happened to a young forest ecologist in Canada. Her name, Suzanne Simard. She grew up among the towering pines of British Columbia, Logging country? A place where trees were seen as timber, not neighbors. But one day, while studying tree roots, Sphera noticed something strange. Young seedlings were surviving better when they were near older trees. Why? Because the older trees were feeding them, literally. Underground, a massive fungal network called mycorrhizae was connecting trees together. Through it, trees shared water, carbon, and nutrients, even across species. It was a forest internet, a wood wide web. But Simard went further. She found that mother trees sent extra carbon to their offspring, and that dying trees could pass nutrients to others, as if writing a last will. This wasn't survival of the fittest, it was survival through connection. But when she published her findings, many scientists dismissed them. Too sentimental, too spiritual. Trees don't talk, they said, but the evidence kept growing. Time-lapse videos, carbon tracer studies, even measurable electric pulses in roots, like primitive signals in a slow-motion nervous system. Eventually, Simard's work would be validated and become the foundation for a revolution in forest ecology. She wasn't alone. Scientists like Peter Wallabon in Germany and Monica Gagliano in Australia also claimed that plants learn, adapt, and even remember. Gagliano trained pea plants to expect wind with light. They learn just like lab mice. But she faced ridicule too, because she used a word science still fears. Plant intelligence. So, can we accept that intelligence doesn't have to look like ours? That maybe, just maybe. The forest has always been thinking just too slowly for us to notice. In the final segment, if trees are intelligent, what does that mean for how we treat them? What does it mean for us? So, if forests communicate, if they share, warn, nurture, what does that mean for us? It means we've been cutting down conversations, silencing mothers, destroying memory. Because in this hidden world, a single old tree might be holding the survival code for an entire generation of seedlings. It means clear-cutting a forest isn't just removing wood, it's amputation, breaking an invisible network, like pulling the plug on a living brain. And here's the twist. The more connected a forest is, the more resilient it becomes. Against drought, fire, disease, even climate change. But what if we worked with a forest's intelligence? Loggers planting new trees but around mother trees that guide them. Urban designers creating green networks, not isolated patches. Even AI trained on forest data to learn from its adaptive wisdom. Because when you realize a tree isn't just wood, but a node in a living web, everything changes. You stop asking, can we cut this down, and start asking, what story are we erasing if we do? The forest may not speak in words, but it's been talking, and now we're finally listening. If trees are speaking, maybe it's time we listen. Share this episode with someone who needs to slow down and hear the world differently. The ocean, it covers more than 70% of our planet. It shaped our continents, our climate, our lives. But what if it's more than just water? What if it's watching, listening, and even remembering? We're taught that memory belongs to brains. Neurons firing, synapses storing. But some scientists now believe the sea might hold its own kind of memory. No thoughts, no feelings. But something stranger, persistence, pattern, echo, movements that don't forget, a storm that passed weeks ago. Its signature still lingers in the waves. Rogue waves forming without warning, not out of nowhere, but from something the ocean held onto. It's called ocean memory, and it changes everything. Because if the ocean remembers, then every ship, every spill, every scream leaves an imprint. The sea becomes a vast, fluid archive, a ghost of past motion repeating in the present. And maybe, just maybe, that means it's not just a body of water, it's a mind without a skull. In this episode, we'll explore how water may store the past, how waves behave like neural networks, and how scientists are learning to read the memory of the ocean. This is not just science. It's a shift in how we see the planet, because when memory lives in motion, nothing is ever truly gone. Waves are supposed to come and go, crash, fade, disappear. But some don't. Some waves refuse to die. They rise from flat water when no storm is near. They appear without warning, tall, violent, impossible. Rogue waves, they're called. And for decades, scientists didn't believe they existed, until ships started vanishing, and oil rigs were struck by 25-meter walls of water, under clear skies. The mystery wasn't just their size, it was their memory. You see, water doesn't forget motion right away. When the wind moves across the sea, it imprints a pattern. That pattern can stay days, even weeks. Waves from old storms can travel thousands of kilometers. They pass through other wave systems. They overlap, reinforce, cancel. Well, they interfere like echoes in a cathedral. And under the right conditions, those echoes focus. Multiple waves meet at a point, not by chance, but because the ocean has held on to their shape, waiting for the right alignment. That's when something terrifying is born. A wave that's bigger than physics says it should be. A wave made of memory. Scientists now call this phenomenon ocean memory. It's not about intention. It's about persistence. The ocean doesn't think, but it doesn't forget easily either. That leftover energy, those ghost patterns, they matter more than we ever realized. Because if you can understand what the ocean remembers, maybe you can predict what it will do next. And this isn't just about rogue waves. It's about climate. It's about storms. It's about what happens when our past decisions are still rippling in the sea. This might sound strange, but what if water could think? Not with thoughts, not with language, but with patterns. Let's step back. Your brain isn't just a lump of gray matter. It's a dense network of electric signals, billions of neurons firing, interacting, shaping memory. By passing waves of energy between them. Now picture the ocean, not as chaos, but as a system of information. Each wave an input, each current an interaction, each echo an imprint of what's come before. In neuroscience, there's a concept called nonlinear dynamics. It means that in complex systems, tiny changes ripple out, causing effects far beyond their origin. Your brain works like that. So does the ocean. Scientists studying wave coherence found something eerie. Certain wave patterns persist far longer than they should. They don't disperse. They organize. They remember. It's not consciousness, but it's not nothing either. In fact, some researchers now compare wave interference to the way neurons store and retrieve signals, not by force, but by alignment. Waves remember each other by rhythm, by pattern, by phase. And in the right conditions, they self-organize, just like thoughts do. What does that mean? It means the ocean isn't just a passive body. It's a dynamic memory field, capable of holding, transmitting, and even processing signals across vast distances. In theory, you could encode information into the sea. And some are already trying. From wave-powered sensors, to AI systems learning from wave behavior, to climate models using ocean feedback as predictive memory. We're only beginning to understand it. But if the brain is a sea of electrical waves, and the sea is a network of kinetic ones, where's the line? Okay, so far we've talked about ocean memory like it's an idea, a metaphor, something poetic. But here's the twist. It's also real science. In 2022, researchers from MIT and NOAA published something shocking. They found that oceans literally retain a memory of their past conditions. It started with satellites. Scientists noticed that sea surface temperatures didn't shift randomly. They showed patterns that persisted for days, even weeks. But when the wind or sun changed, the ocean didn't always respond immediately. Instead, It acted like it remembered how it was before. This wasn't just weather, it was something deeper. They ran the models again and again, and what emerged was a concept they called oceanic short-term memory. Basically, the sea develops a kind of inertia, a resistance to change. Just like you might take time to recover after a shock, so does water. But it goes further. They found that wave fields, especially in calm conditions, retain the shape and energy direction of previous wave events. This wave memory can affect everything from navigation to plankton movement to climate modeling. Think about it. You can stand on the beach and feel waves lapping at your feet that are echoes of storms miles away. Days ago, those waves are still telling a story, still carrying a message. And this isn't speculation. It's being measured, quantified, mapped. Scientists now use this data to predict coastal erosion, to model tsunamis, to track long-range energy shifts across oceans. And it gets weirder. In some rare cases, the water's memory is so persistent that ghost waves, waves with no immediate cause, appear from seemingly nowhere. Just remnants of something that once was, like ripples from a memory that refuses to fade. What else is the ocean remembering that we haven't learned to listen for yet? If the ocean has memory, what does that change? Everything. Because it means our models of weather, climate, even disaster forecasting are missing something big. See, most climate models assume the ocean responds like a machine. Input goes in, output comes out. Simple cause and effect. But that's not how memory works. If oceans remember their past states, if they resist change or carry forward energy from days ago, then every storm, every heat wave, every current is part of a bigger narrative. That means tsunamis might strike harder, not just because of the earthquake that triggered them, but because the ocean was already primed, already holding tension in its waves. Coral bleaching, sea level rise, extreme rainfall. They're not isolated events. They're the echoes of memory, building over time, and it gets even more futuristic. Some researchers are now using AI to model the ocean's memory. Instead of treating water like a blank slate, they feed it past wave patterns, temperature layers, salinity rhythms, like a neural network. Because in a weird way, the ocean behaves like a brain. It stores, but it recalls. It reacts based on what it's been through. Imagine a future where your weather app doesn't just check forecasts, but listens to what the ocean remembers. Imagine an AI trained not just on data, but on currents of memory, carried across thousands of miles. And maybe, if we listened better, we'd realize Earth has been talking all along, not in words, but in waves. Water remembers. Will we? Send this episode to someone who still thinks the ocean is just waves and salt. There was nothing left, just ash, rock, and silence. No birds, no trees, no life. On the morning of August 27, 1883, the island of Krakatoa, in what is now Indonesia, erupted in an explosion so violent it shattered the island into pieces. The blast was heard 3,000 miles away. Tsunamis killed over 36,000 people. The sky turned black, and for years the land was considered dead. But then, something strange happened. Within just a few years, life started coming back. Seeds arrived, floating across the sea. Birds landed on black sand, bringing more. Crabs, spiders, moss, and eventually, green. By the 1930s, a new island was rising where the old one had fallen. Volcanic activity gave birth to Anak Krakatau, the child of Krakatoa. And it wasn't just rock anymore, it was alive. Scientists were stunned. No human intervention, no replanting. Yet nature rebuilt itself fast, almost as if it remembered. The story of Krakatoa isn't just a tale of destruction. It's proof that Earth can bounce back, even when we think all is lost. And maybe, just maybe, we're the ones slowing it down. Chernobyl. The name alone feels radioactive. A place where time stopped, where buildings rot, and danger lingers in the dirt. But step outside the rusting fences, and you'll see something unexpected. Wolves, boars, owls, even bears. Chernobyl, once considered a permanent scar, has become one of Europe's largest wildlife sanctuaries. Not because it's safe, but because humans left. And that seems to be the pattern. Mount St. Helens minus 1,980. It didn't just erupt, it exploded. A blast that flattened forests, vaporized lakes, and killed every living thing within miles. Experts predicted it would take centuries to recover. But within weeks, something pushed through the ash. Fireweed. Then, pocket gophers. Salamanders, beetles. The landscape began rebuilding itself without permission. And of course, Krakatoa wiped clean by fire. Reclaimed by seed, wind, and wave. Nature doesn't need us to replant it. It wants to fill the void. It tries, even in nuclear wastelands. Even after extinction-level blasts. So maybe the myth is this, that once we ruin something, it's ruined forever. But Earth disagrees. It remembers the shape of life, and it wants it back. When a forest burns to ash, it looks like death. Charred trees, silence. No birdsong, no movement. Just black soil. But what we can't see is what's waiting beneath. All over the world, nature hides something powerful underground. Seed banks. Not human-made vaults, but natural caches seeds buried in the soil for years, sometimes decades, waiting for the signal. A change in light. A rise in temperature. A hint of ash. Then they sprout. All at once, fire following flowers. Grasses that only germinate after heat. Life designed to rise from ruin. And then there's the fungi. You won't see them, but they're already there. Mycelium networks, the underground internet of the natural world. Some spores can survive fire. Others drift in the wind, landing on lifeless ground. They break down the dead. They feed the new. They call the insects. Then come the birds. Then the mammals. One thread at a time, the web reconnects. Animals migrate back, guided by instinct, smell, temperature, the return of food, of shelter. Even islands devastated by volcanic eruptions see the arrival of lizards, insects, and birds carried by wind, floating wood, even ocean currents. This isn't chaos, it's choreography. Earth is wired to restart. The mechanisms are ancient, automatic, rebalance, reclaim. Not because nature is gentle. We like to believe we fix things. We build, we clean, we manage. But what if nature heals faster when we leave it alone? Take Chernobyl. After the nuclear meltdown in 1986, the region was evacuated abandoned. Radiation was everywhere. It should have been a wasteland for centuries, and yet, within just a few years, the forests thickened. Wolves returned. Lynxes, deer, even endangered horses. No humans, no interference, just wildlife. Reclaiming space. Mount St. Helens, 1980. The volcano obliterated everything. No plants, no animals, just ash. But in less than a decade, new plants broke through. Amphibians returned to the ponds. Microbial life rebuilt the soil from scratch. All without our help. It's not that we're evil. It's that we're noisy, messy. We simplify ecosystems instead of letting them be complex. We pave over soil, redirect rivers, introduce species where they don't belong. Nature doesn't rush, but it responds. And when we step aside, it responds faster than we expect. Compare that to us. A burned house takes years to rebuild. Mental trauma can linger for decades. Grief rewires the brain. Our healing is emotional, bureaucratic, slow. Earth heals differently, not because it cares more, but because it's been through worse, and it evolved for recovery. The planet isn't fragile. It's not waiting for us to save it. Sometimes it just needs us to get out of the way. We've spent centuries trying to control nature, straighten rivers, clear forests, flatten hills. But the more we try to fix nature, the more we realize it already knows how to fix itself. That's where rewilding comes in. Rewilding isn't just planting trees, it's stepping back, letting ecosystems regenerate, letting rivers meander, letting predators return. In the Scottish Highlands, they reintroduced wolves and saw the land change. Trees returned, erosion slowed, birds came back. Because wolves scared deer away from overgrazing. One species, one shift, and an entire landscape started healing. In the Netherlands, old city plots became wetlands on purpose. Flood protection went up without concrete walls, just reeds and frogs and beavers. So here's the real question. What if cities weren't just concrete jungles? What if they pulsed with lifelike real jungles? Green roofs, pollinator highways. Urban rivers return to their paths. Nature doesn't need to be far away. It can live beside us, within us. Rewilding isn't about going backwards. It's about choosing not to dominate and watching what happens when we cooperate. We thought we were stewards, but maybe we're just one thread in something bigger. And when we let the earth breathe, it doesn't just survive, it remembers, it rebuilds, it begins again. Nature doesn't just survive, it rebounds. Tag someone who needs hope that even after disaster, life finds a way. Imagine this. You're deep underground, no windows, no clocks, no sunrise, no phone, just stone walls and blackness, thick as velvet. You live here for weeks, no sense of morning. No idea when to sleep, no idea if you've been awake for hours or days. How long is a day if you never see daylight? In 1962, a French geologist named Michel Siffer descended into a cave for what he called a time isolation experiment. No watch, no calendar, just him, a flashlight, and science. He stayed underground for 2 months. What happened? He lost track of time completely. Days stretched, sleep cycles unraveled. He thought he'd been in the cave for 34 days. He was wrong. He'd been there for 59. But here's the twist. His body adapted. He created his own internal clock. His brain extended the day to 48 hours naturally. Sleeping 12, staying awake 36. No sun, no rules. And time bent to the mind. And Siffer wasn't alone. Other experiments in deep caves showed the same thing. We don't need sunlight to measure time. We just feel it. Or we think we do. Take away the sky, and humans invent their own tomorrow. But here's what's really strange. When people left the caves, time felt wrong. Noisy, fast, out of sync, as if civilization runs too quickly, and caves run at Earth's speed. So maybe time isn't a ticking clock. Maybe it's a rhythm nature whispers. One we forget when we stare at glowing rectangles all day in the dark. We remember the beat of being alive. HOST, time is supposed to be steady, but in a cave, it melts. No clocks, no sun. Just stone and silence, and the human brain starts to drift. In 1962, French geologist Michel Siffer entered a glacier cave in the Alps. He brought no watch, no way to track time. He wanted to see what the human body would do. Left completely alone with nature. He expected to emerge a month later. He was wrong. His mind lost the thread. He journaled. He ate. He slept. But his inner clock stretched. He thought it was day 34 when the team pulled him out. It was day 59. He didn't go mad. He didn't hallucinate. He adapted. Siffer's brain made its own time. He stayed awake for 36 hours. Then slept 12. Naturally, other scientists tried it too. In the 70s, German researchers conducted their own cave experiments. Some volunteers believed they'd spent 25 days underground. They were actually in 450. Others thought they'd been down for 8. Oh, but it had only been 30. Time had become elastic. The conclusion: without daylight, the body creates its own rhythm, but it doesn't match Earth's. It's slower, wider, less frantic, as if the human brain freed from clocks wants to live in longer days, gentler hours, a rhythm more natural than the one we're taught. What happens when your heartbeat no longer matches the world? Maybe the real distortion isn't in the cave. Maybe it's up here, in the surface world. Imagine waking up, not knowing if it's morning or midnight. You slept, you feel rested, but is it time to eat, to sleep again? Your body doesn't know, because the clock inside you stopped listening. In total darkness, your circadian rhythm begins to fade. The 24-hour cycle tied to the sun, the one that rules your hunger, your hormones, your energy, it lets go. Your brain begins inventing its own time. Sleep for 2 hours, stay up for 20, then crash for 10 more. You might feel fine, you might even feel better, but you're out of sync with the world above. In cave studies, volunteers reported no distress, but their rhythms unraveled. Melatonin, the sleep hormone, surged unpredictably. Body temperature dropped and rose like waves without pattern. Some lost track of weeks, others forgot what a day meant at all. Without the sun, time becomes personal, intimate, wild. The body becomes its own planet, rotating at a new speed. But here's the strange part. This internal rhythm is not 24 hours. It's closer to 25. Some say 26. You weren't built for clocks. You were built for light, and without it, your brain writes its own time signature. So what happens to memory, emotion, focus, when the sun never rises? And if your mind adjusts to this, is it breaking, or is it remembering something ancient? In a world without sunlight, time still ticks, just differently. Welcome to the realm of creatures who've never seen a sunrise. Blind cavefish, deep sea worms, shrimp that live their whole lives under mountains of rock. They were born in the dark, and they'll die there. No clocks, no sky, no seasons. Yet somehow, they function. Take the blind cavefish, no eyes, no pigment. Yet their bodies still follow a rhythm. It's not exactly 24 hours, sometimes 26, sometimes none at all. Some reset themselves using tiny temperature shifts, chemical cues, even pressure changes in the water. In the deep sea where light has never reached, creatures pulse with bioluminescence, shed their skins on cycle, mate in patterns we still don't understand. Some deep-sea isopods go completely dormant for years, then wake up, all at once, to feed, to breed, to vanish again. They are clocks without faces, timepieces without hands, but they still tick. And here's the part that unsettles scientists. Many of these rhythms seem built-in, genetic, inherently encoded, as if the memory of light lives deep inside them, even if they've never seen it. So maybe time doesn't need light. Maybe life remembers how to count, even in the dark. And if that's true for a cavefish, what about us? What rhythms still rule you, that don't come from the clock on your wall? Time, we treat it like a law, fixed, unchanging. A straight line from birth to death. But step into a cave, and all of that falls apart. No sunrise, no ticking clock, no cues at all. And suddenly your body forgets. Hours stretch. Minutes vanish. A day becomes meaningless. Time isn't a constant. It's a context. Your cells don't count seconds. They follow light, temperature, movement, social cues. When those vanish, so does time. Think about this. To a tree, 100 years is nothing. To a mayfly, a single day is an entire lifetime. Who's wrong? Who's right? Maybe time isn't something we have. Maybe it's something we feel. A rhythm that emerges from biology, memory, and environment. Not a law of the universe, but a trick of the mind. In the end, time might not be real. At least, not the way we think. And maybe that's what the cave was trying to show us all along. What if time isn't what you thought? Share this with someone who's always racing the clock. They always know where to go, when to bloom. Where north is, always. We're taught about 5 senses: sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. But in nature, there's a 6th, a built-in compass. Birds don't carry GPS, yet they fly thousands of kilometers to the same tree every year. Sea turtles hatch on a beach and return decades later to that exact strip of sand. How? Even bacteria. Yes, bacteria can feel the Earth's magnetic field. They call it magnetoreception, a sensory ability hidden deep inside cells, inside the very molecules of life. Scientists believe it's linked to proteins, tiny quantum sensors in the eyes or brain. It's still a mystery, but somehow life can sense the invisible. Imagine if you could always feel where home was, even across oceans, even in darkness. What if the Earth is constantly speaking, and only some creatures remember how to listen? That's not magic. It's biology, and maybe, just maybe, we've lost a sense we never knew we had. It sounds like science fiction, but it's very real. A hidden sense built into bodies across the planet. Birds have it, so do turtles, whales, even cows. It's called magnetoreception, the ability to sense Earth's magnetic field, a kind of built-in compass. Let's start with birds. They don't just guess their way south for the winter. They navigate by reading the magnetic map in the air. Their eyes may actually see magnetic fields, a faint shifting glow guiding them through the skies. Sea turtles, they hatch on a beach, disappear into the ocean, and come back decades later to that exact same beach. Scientists believe they store a magnetic signature of the place they were born. Whales migrate thousands of miles through a pitch-black ocean with stunning precision. Some researchers now think they ride invisible currents of magnetism. And cows, well, satellite images show that herds tend to line up along north-south axis. No joke, Atama. But how does it work? Inside many of these animals is a strange protein cryptochrome that may react to magnetic fields on a quantum level. Other theories suggest tiny bits of magnetite, a magnetic mineral, are buried in their tissue, acting like microscopic compass needles. The truth, we don't fully know. It's one of biology's quietest superpowers. Invisible, mysterious, everywhere. And maybe, just maybe, not exclusive to animals. The Earth has a pulse, a magnetic field, a protective shield that wraps around the planet like a force field, guiding animals, shielding us from radiation, and quietly shifting beneath our feet. And now, that field is changing. Fast. The magnetic North Pole, once fixed in the Canadian Arctic, is drifting eastward toward Siberia at a pace that has scientists unsettled. It used to crawl. Now it sprints, nearly 50 kilometers per year. What happens when the map no longer matches the sky? Birds, whales, turtles all rely on Earth's magnetic signature, like we rely on GPS. But if that signature is warping, their ancient instincts could lead them to the wrong place at the wrong time. Some migratory birds are showing up miles off course. Whales beach themselves, confused and panicked. Even human navigation systems have had to adjust. Scientists call it a geomagnetic anomaly, a sign that the Earth's magnetic field is weakening, or possibly preparing to flip. Yes, flip. North becomes south. South becomes north. It's happened before, roughly every 200,000 years. The last time it flipped, 780,000 years ago. We're overdue. But the question is, how do animals tuned to an invisible force cope with a planet that's rewriting its rules? And what does it mean for us? Imagine this, a map, not drawn on paper, not stored in memory, but etched into the cells of your body. Birds, bees, whales, they don't carry compasses, yet they know exactly where to go. Across continents, across oceans, in the dark, in fog, even in total silence. So how? The answer might be hiding in their brains. Inside the eyes of birds, scientists discovered a protein, a chrome. It reacts to Earth's magnetic field and helps create a sort of magnetic vision, like a sixth sense layered over their eyesight. They don't just see light, they see direction. Then there's magnetite, a natural magnetic mineral found inside fish noses, bird beaks, and yes, even in human brains. These aren't just random particles. They may act like built-in compass needles, shifting, aligning, sending microscopic signals. Two neurons built to interpret. North, we've always thought of navigation as a choice, a calculation. But what if, for billions of creatures, it's instinct, wired deep, invisible, undeniable? Could their brains be holding maps we still don't understand? Could yours? A beach covered in still bodies, not from storms, not from sickness, but because the world shifted and no one told them. Whales stranded on shore, birds veering hundreds of miles off course, turtles born on beaches, swimming the wrong direction. When Earth's magnetic field wobbles, they lose their way. And lately, that field is changing, fast. The magnetic North Pole, once slow and steady, is now racing across the Arctic, faster than ever recorded. And it's throwing nature into chaos. Their internal compasses, the cryptochromes, the magnetite, the ancient navigation systems, can't recalibrate fast enough. We're seeing more strandings, more migration failures. And we don't fully understand why. Could it be solar flares? Electromagnetic noise from cities? Our satellites? Our submarines? Or is it something older, deeper? We've relied on nature to guide itself, to return each season, to find its way home. But if the planet's compass keeps shifting, what happens when nothing points north? They feel the Earth in ways we can't. Pass this on to a curious mind, who's always wondered how animals just know.